The Lego Victim Olympics are insane. Apparently, the fastest way to become a respected victim in America is not to be disabled, not to be poor, not to be sick, not to lose your housing, not to be unable to work, not to be trapped inside a system that treats your survival like an inconvenience. No. Apparently, you need a six-figure Lego collection, which only a rich person has, because the second a family loses control of a luxury collectible pile, suddenly the whole internet understands victimhood. Suddenly everyone understands exploitation, contracts, trust, unfairness, theft, harm, and emotional damage. Suddenly everyone understands that a person can be hurt by a situation bigger than harm, bigger than them. But when the disabled people lose healthcare, income, food access, housing, transportation, or the ability to survive, those same people become cold blooded economists. Get a job, stop complaining, nobody owes you nothing, why should taxpayers help you? That is the hypocrisy. When people with assets lose luxury property, society calls them victims. They're not. When poor and disabled people lose survival access, society calls them burdens. They are not. And now there is a GoFundMe for Lego. Get the fuck out of here. And before someone says, well, GoFundMe allows it, I do not care what the platform allows. Platforms allow all kinds of morally disgusting things. The question is not whether the website lets you do it. The question is whether it is ethically proportional. GoFundMe should be for people who are drowning, medical bills, rent, food, disability, emergency survival, people who cannot work, people who have no realistic options, people who are one bad week away from losing everything, not a public refund machine because someone made a bad decision with a luxury collectible investment. That is what this is. They had expensive collectibles. They trust the wrong situation. They did not just list the toys themselves like they should have. They got burned. Yeah, that sucks, I guess. But that's not the same category as a disabled person losing Medicaid. That is not the same category as someone losing housing. That is not the same category as someone being unable to work and then being told that their poverty is their fault. One is luxury property loss, the other is survival loss. And society keeps treating the first one like a tragedy while treating the second one like a budget issue. That is why this drama is so insane. Because people who have never been crushed by the system always think morality is simple. They always think choices are obvious. They always think survival is just discipline, poverty is just laziness, disability is just excuses, and desperation is just bad character. But that is because they have never been pushed into a situation where every choice is just a different kind of punishment. They have never been disabled and told it was their fault they're poor. They have never been targeted by systems designed to exhaust them until they give up. They have never been gaslit by people comfortable enough who think survival barriers are personality flaws. And a lot of these people would not survive 1 month in the environments that they judge from a distance. They would not survive the ghetto. They would not survive having no job access, no health care, no family support, no safety net, no transportation, no stable income, no way out, and then being told every consequence is their personal failure. The average comfortable person thinks crime is always a is always morally defect because they have never been pushed into a kind of corner where the options become do something ugly, starve, or become homeless or die. That does not make harm good. That does not make crime good. It means survival pressure is real. There are real reasons. And people who have never faced it should stop pretending that they understand desperation. But that is the difference. When poor people are desperate, society says they made bad choices. When rich people make bad choices with assets, society says they deserve rescue. That is the victim hierarchy. That is the class worship. That is the selective humanity. That is the fascism. Because the public story here is not survival abandonment. It is not someone being denied life saving care. It is not someone being unable to work and be told to die quietly. It is someone losing food stamps, disability, income, housing, medication, or basic human dignity. It is a high value collectible investment dispute. That can still be wrong. That can still involve harm. That can still involve someone being screwed over. But that is not the same category. And I am tired of society pretending all suffering is equal the second the person suffering has enough money, assets, social respectability for comfortable people to care. People are dying because they cannot work. Disabled people are being blamed for needing help. Poor people are being pushed for being poor. People with real barriers are being told to bootstrap themselves out of bodies, conditions, injuries, traumas, and systems they did not choose or ever seen. But the internet wants me to cry because someone lost collectible plastic. No, not because theft is fine, not because scams are fine, not because property does not matter, not because but because the moral scale is broken. GoFundMe should not be a rich house insurance for luxury collectibles for rich people to get out of their mistakes that they could have avoided. GoFundMe should be a last resort survival net for people with no options. And that is why this Lego Victim Olympics garbage pisses me off, because people suddenly know how to recognize harm when the victim has assets. They suddenly know how to recognize exploitation when the story is about expensive toys. They suddenly know how to recognize unfairness when the person asking for sympathy already had enough surplus of their own to make what most poor people could never dream of owning. But when the disabled people ask for help, society demands proof. When poor people ask for help, society gives lectures. When people who cannot work ask for survival, society calls them lazy. So, yes, the Lego Victim Olympics are insane. Not because nobody was wrong, but because the internet keeps proving it knows nothing on how to recognize victimhood. It chooses who deserves empathy. And apparently, in this country, losing expensive plastic is more emotionally acceptable than being poor, disabled, and trapped in a system designed to let you disappear. Imagine being abused for 30 years and you're told you have to die because some rich motherfucker that's never suffered a goddamn day in their life loses a collectible investment that most people will never fucking have in the first place. Poor rich people making a bad decision, losing their money, while the actual people suffering, disabled and poor people, are fighting to survive every single day of their fucking life. It's fucking pathetic and it's psychopathy. Like, it is literal collective psychopathy that people would defend these rich people when it's their fault. Like, it's literally their fault. It's not a disabled person's fault for being disabled. It's not necessarily a poor person's fault for being poor, but somehow a rich person making a mistake, it's not their fault, and everyone else has to pay for it. Yeah, don't help people actually survive. Help people live comfortably who already have more than enough money to survive on than most people will in their entire fucking lifetime. It's fucking despicable.